What's going on, guys? What would Vinny do? Real excited about tonight's guest, Sheri Homayoon Myers. She's a lifestyle entrepreneur with 9 years of experience spanning across sales, recruitment, human resources, executive coaching, professional network marketing. She's a dedicated public speaker and certified life coach with over 450 published videos on the topics of personal development, spiritual growth, and emotional intelligence. She's in the business of tribe and community building and loves to help people level up their health, wealth, and mindset. What's going on, Sheri? Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Vinny. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Of course. So I love the bio, first of all. I get a lot of bios, and just reading yours, I mean, level up their health, wealth, and mindset. I love that, and I can't wait to talk about that stuff. But we're gonna kind of start from the beginning. That's kind of what my show's about. We're gonna go on your journey to get where you are now. Okay?
I love that. Let's go.
All right. So where does it start? You tell me.
Yeah, it starts. I was born out on Long Island from a small town of Bayport. More specifically, for me, it was a big family. I have 5 older brothers. So for me, it's, constantly trying to prove myself as the only girl in the family. I'm a very competitive person. So out of all of my brothers, I was really the only athletic one. I joke with them all the time about that. But it really transpired into, running throughout college and sprinting throughout my coursework because I just loved it so much and just always, doing well in my entire journey. But throughout that journey, I hit a tremendous amount of speed bumps emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, so many different speed bumps. And so my journey, it morphed a lot. But where it really began was a small town, Bayport, Blue Point, Long Island. A great family. I have 2 parents still living today, still together, married after 50 years. My father's from Iran. He came over when he was about 26. He's a doctor. He's retired now. My mom is a nurse. She's an LPN. Interesting enough, she's Norwegian. So I'm half Norwegian and half Persian.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So right. But as far as growing up, so it's you and 5 boys. That's what it was?
Yeah, me and 5 older brothers.
So were you good at sports? Did you say that? Did you play a lot of sports when you were younger? Like what? Which ones?
Yes, for me, soccer was my big one. Soccer was my favorite. I was always a dancer too. I danced for about 13 years, and I think that just made me super coordinated. So when I got into sports, it was so easy. I played softball, I played soccer. Soccer was my big one. I played internationally. I was on an All-American league. I played out in Europe when I was like 14. And then I got really involved in discus and track and field. I was like the scrawniest, skinniest chick there, but it was all about strategy. And I really loved it. And that just being under pressure was really great. And I loved soccer just in terms of being on a team, and just playing sports. I was really athletic growing up.
That's great. I was basketball myself, and sports was a big part of my life, and it still is.
Nice.
So for the people listening out there, I met Sheri. I watched one of her videos, and I'm going to be totally honest. A lot of people have videos out where I watch them and I turn them off immediately. And hers, I was kind of captivated at some of the stuff you were saying and how you were delivering it. So let's talk about early on with yourself. Were you as confident as you come off now when you're doing your stuff?
Yeah, great question. No, my confidence, I mean, when you really go back to my journey throughout high school, I think that was a pivotal moment for me because I was liked growing up. I was popular growing up. I had no problem. I was voted most friendly. I was a very nice person. And I just got along with everybody, but I was my worst critic to the point where I developed a horrific eating disorder. At the age of 16, I went through major depression for about 9 months, suffered real hard, had the most intrusive thoughts at that age. And that really put me back a little bit. I mean, in terms of confidence, that was like at rock bottom from just a physical level of not feeling confident in my skin, not feeling confident as a woman, really lost in my sauce, not even knowing what my purpose was. And then, seeing that confidence start to develop throughout relationships, actually, because I feel the universe always provides us with people. Like our souls are just all within in this environment, and you become in a relationship, and it's like a laboratory for the soul. And so I had gotten into this relationship at that time, and this person was just so beautiful and in helping me see within myself a lot of the things that I wasn't seeing for myself. And so that slowly helped me creep out of that depression. It like opened up my eyes to a lot of different things. A lot of self hatred became unmasked. And so just that cognitive understanding of where I had been helped me develop a sense of compassion, which led me into this confidence of like, hey, I've been through rock bottom. Like, how much worse can it get? You know, and then the confidence, though, really got shaped more throughout my 20s, Vinny. Like sales, you know how it is. Like,
Right.
sales is like personal development with extra money attached,
Right.
you know, like how
Right.
fast can you
Right.
develop? So,
But I think it's fascinating what you're saying, and for anybody listening, I mean, growing up, everybody like doubts themselves. But I'm just curious. You talked about how a relationship kind of helped you guys, but you said your parents were great and they were doctors and this and your brothers. You seem like you had a loving family around Long Island. What do you think, looking back, was some of the reasons why you had these problems? Do you have an idea looking back, or not really?
oh yeah, I went through a lot of coaching. Like I hired even a man to help me with this because when I was 24, I found myself in this position in medical sales, and I was so sad, and I didn't understand why. And I had gotten out of that job, and I had found myself in medical device sales. And I was sitting with myself in a meditation. I'm just like, what is going on? Why am I so attached to money? Why am I so attached to money? Why am I so attached to the opinions of others, and what they think of me means so much to me? And so my coach really helped me peel back some layers and just get a deeper understanding of this lack of love that I felt for myself has really just been me trying to forgive myself. I've carried around a lot of guilt around my father, and just wanting to be the best of the best in his eyes, and constantly trying to strive to be perfection,
But
right?
were
So
you But were you putting it on yourself, or was he putting it on you?
no, so that's a good question. He was actually putting it on me. So
Okay.
you
Okay.
think about
Right.
how does a child at 15, you know, stick fingers in her mouth and make herself throw up multiple times a day? What type of psychology does it take to get to that point where you want to die? For me, I started to realize, I'm like, wow, you know, growing up, my father was always very vocal about people being overweight and not liking that and not approving of that. And so even when I was young, I'd be in the mirror eating like a sleeve of Chips Ahoy cookies, but I'd be looking at my stomach, and
That's
he'd say
crazy.
like, you know, Sheri, just watch your abdomen. At 14 years old and 15 years old, I was on diet pills prescribed by my dad. And so was my mom. So when I think about, I got involved in Weight Watchers at the age of 16. And
But
who was the doctor?
right? But
You know,
was it
who,
is it vanity, or is it they were just didn't like obese people? Is it you understand what I'm saying? Is it
yeah,
vanity?
yeah. You know,
Is it
for my dad, from his perspective, because I think there's such a beautiful innocence there, I think it's just his judgment, his personal preference.
okay?
It's a lack of self-awareness there, and understanding how that judgment is really a separation. You know, like I think it's a personal practice on my dad just not being aware of, hey, that's a judgment. That's a negative
Right.
judgment.
But it's
And
supposed
that,
to be it's supposed to be
yeah,
unconditional with your father, right? So that's the problem too, right?
right,
And
right.
I'm not. Listen, I had an old school Italian father who didn't come to my little league games, and I wasn't like. But it is what it is, you know. I respect him for he made life easier for me. He worked hard. He thought he was supposed to, like provide for us, and that was his function, you know. So like you said, it's not it's what you know, right? What you think you're doing, what you don't know what you don't know, right? And he thought he was doing right by his family because he
Yeah.
came here, he didn't know English, he got us, and he did do right by us. I'm still benefiting from some of the stuff that he laid out from his hard work. But could he have been more involved in my growing up? Yes, obviously, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like my father was also never around. He worked as a surgeon and like as a doctor in millions of places out on Long Island, like Southside Hospital and all the nursing homes. And so growing up, I also was alone a lot. And so that I think really shaped that lack of confidence, because I was quite introverted, and I see it within all my brothers. We all suffer from this sense of being introverted because we were with ourselves a lot. We never really developed socially as children. You know, we got to do a lot of activities, but from my standpoint, Vinny, I got to see like all these 5 older boys being boys in adult bodies. And so the mindset, I was like, how does that happen? You know, like none of my brothers really have confidence. I have one brother out of 5 of them that has really confidence. And it's just fascinating to me because a lot of them are not aware to it. A lot of them don't even want to look at it. And that even
Yeah, you don't want to face up to the problem. So that you can't fix it if you can't admit it's there, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It causes so much, like, you know, and you just have to say, you know what, you're right about that. When people don't want to look at the problem, you know, it's just going to keep being recreated. So it's fascinating to see.
But I mean, I've never, because if you watch your videos, you seem super confident. So to see someone go from no confidence, and this, you're going to credit this to a relationship or to coaching. It's almost like your coach played a role of a psychiatrist in a way, correct?
Well, no. Well, yeah. What my coach did was he was able to bring me to a space within myself for me to just see things. Like I found my biggest breakthrough happened on a podcast he had put out, his Golden Mastermind podcast, and he was talking about anxiety. So at the time, I mean, my journey goes so deep. At the time when I was listening to him, I was a medical device rep. I was getting high, getting drunk, not caring about anything because I had so much sadness. And the way it was coming out was just this F it attitude of like, I have all this money and it still doesn't make me happy. Like I was spiraling really fast. And I couldn't understand, Vinny, why I was developing panic disorder all over again in this new role. Like my mind was turning on me. And on this podcast, he's talking about anxiety. And he's like, you know, the things that we perceive to be painful, we will avoid. And he goes deeper into that and how like we attach these feelings to beliefs in events. So an event will happen and then all of a sudden we have these feelings about it and we create beliefs about it. And what was happening for me at that time in my life is I was going into doctors' offices and I was going into businesses doing new business development, and I was getting hated on and I was getting bullied and like all of these different things were happening. And I emotionally
How old were you at this time?
24. I was 23, 24. I was like, I mean, ADP was my first sales job. That's okay. Business to business
payroll,
sales.
Yeah, payroll. Yeah.
Finding myself in payroll. Yeah, like that's what I was like, oh my gosh, get me out of this. I did that for 6 months, found myself as a pharma rep in North Brooklyn, having to go into offices where they're like, yeah, no, honey, we're not letting you see the doctor. Meanwhile, 3 other reps would walk right by and they would let her go through. You know, It was a lie. It was like a mind screw over and over, day by day. And so like I developed panic disorder. I developed all of these different mental disordered thinking, but it was very temporary. It was like, what I say to everyone is moment by moment, you can change. For me, coming back to what you were talking about is how did I get so confident? Is God. I mean, literally, I had a whole day where it was just complete sadness, complete sobbing all day long, meditating. What's wrong with me? So much sadness. But in my meditation, I got so deep to this place of just complete love. And it's the most incredible feeling because it's all the love everywhere that you can imagine, all the love that you never received, you get in that moment. And all I had been doing was asking God to give me peace of mind. I was praying like over and over for the whole like 2 years that I was in that depression. Just God, please give me peace of mind. And in this depression, when I came out of this depression, the depression lifted. All of a sudden, I adopted it was like I surrendered this thinking process and I picked up God's thinking. And all of a sudden in my meditations, the thoughts that were coming up were, I am God. I am God. And I was like, what the F is going on? Like, okay, this is peace of mind. Like, I am God, but what is this? And so that led me to find more things on Dr. Wayne Dyer, who I had been studying. I was like, what is this mantra of like, I am God? Like, why am I hearing this? What am I feeling? This is the most beautiful feeling in the world. In this moment, I have no self-hatred. if anything, I want to stay here, heaven on earth. It's that moment. And so that gave me confidence, because after that moment, I knew what I had to do. And it's literally to spread the word of God and to just let people know that God's within us all. But we've got to get quiet, because otherwise this sense of separation, this ego that I had been living so much in, will do for everyone what it was doing to me, and that's try and kill us, if that makes any sense.
Right. So your coach was very spiritual as well, or that you just felt?
No,
No, not at all.
no,
That
no,
was
no,
your
not
own
at
thing on
all.
the side.
I grew up very spiritual. I mean, my father grew up in the Baha'i faith. So it's the most beautiful faith in the world, in my opinion, where it's a collective of all the different religions. And it's a small faith that believes in the unity of all different religions. So that's how I grew. I grew up not knowing who God was. I'm like, God is the sun. And, and all these different religions are all a part of one. And so my father brought me up like that. My mom was Lutheran. So I would go to church once a year. I didn't know Jesus. I didn't really know the story of Jesus. I'm still learning the story of Jesus and all the different, religions. But I grew up always knowing that there was a presence. I had some weird shit happening, and I was like, wait, there's definitely a presence with me. I've always been drawn to that side. And that's what led me to Reiki. It always led me to crystals. It led me to cards. And so I've always had this part of me. So when I was losing my mind, what's interesting is when you drop to your knees, there's nowhere else to go. You go to God. You start having that conversation of like, God, is someone else out there, because I want to kill myself. And I don't really want to kill myself, but my thoughts are telling me to do so. And I don't know where these thoughts are coming from. And that's what I couldn't understand, is for me in these moments, Vin, in depression at least, like when I reached that point, I knew I would get through it. There was this small voice of spirit that was like, everything will be okay. But this loud voice was like, look at all the problems. Look at everything you're going through. Look at how bad you are. Because that's what the ego does. It doesn't, say you've made a mistake. It says you are the mistake. And so I felt like there was something wrong with me. And I was like, I've got to be fixed. And so I fell into the trap of pharmaceutical medication. As a pharma rep on Xanax, talking to doctors about depression, like it was a very awkward time in my life. And it was also, you become so aware of it, like, when you're off. I knew something was off.
Did you not have anybody to turn to? Like, did you have no support system? Like you talked about being introverted and alone. So as this is going on, is there no one to lean on? What's happening?
It's interesting. I've been in a relationship. My husband and I have been together throughout this entire period. Keith was with me.
Okay.
Fascinating. Yeah, I was very unemotionally unavailable for him, but he was he was my angel when I think of that. Like, he was literally an angel in my life, reflecting all of my greatest, all of the greatness back to me. But I just remember for 2 years, like, especially when we were first together, when I told my dad that I was diagnosed with type 2 bipolar disorder, he's like, don't tell anybody that. Don't tell anybody that. And I'm like, what? Like, I have a brother that was diagnosed with type 1 bipolar disorder when he was 13, 14 years old, been on medication. I found myself on medication, and yet there was so much shame around it. I mean, I was diagnosed with so many different things so fast. And I was like, have I always been like this? I had so many questions. And like, you go to the parents. My mother, very loving, but still has a lot of, emotional issues herself. So she's there for you, right? But, she's in the back of her mind, she's worried. My father just denied it, was like, nope, that's not you. Nope, don't take that medication. And then my family, the friends, not very many that I was open to about that.
I think, but a lot of fathers probably. I have 3 children, so if someone, and this hasn't happened to me, but I could see if someone tells you your son has you don't want to believe it. You know what I mean? It's hard to accept, right?
I get it.
I know a lot of speech therapists and people who deal with kids, and they're always like, their parents are like, no, there's nothing wrong with my kid. You know what I mean? Instead of accepting that there's a problem.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Even with discipline in school these days, it's never the kid's fault, right? The teacher approached them the wrong way or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
So it's all fascinating stuff. So when you talk about, you mentioned the why. We talk about that a lot at Keller Williams. What's your why? Like, my why is just personal growth. I want to be better than I was last year. If I did a certain amount of sales, now I want to improve myself. My competition is only me. That's how I feel. I just
I
got to,
love
I'm
that.
not, I'm not worried about everybody around me. I just got to better myself and
Hmm.
keep the people who support you, you ride with me. Whoever don't, it is what it is. You're either with
Hmm.
us or against us. So what about you? What's your why now? Is it your husband? Is it when people have children? Do you have children? Do you plan to have children?
Yeah, no kids yet. We
Okay.
plan to have children. We're starting to look at houses. It's so interesting, Vinny, when I think about my why. My why is to literally let God lead my life. Literally, I give my entire why is faith. It's literally all being of service. It's literally just showing up and not making it about me, because I know, like, for me, God's always going to be my why, because God is limitless, right? If I make my why about Keith, I'll put limits there. If I make my why about anything, family oriented, I'll put limits there. I know how I am. So what I've really had to do is look deeper within myself and say, Share, what's going to really get you up and really get you moving is when you make it about the one source of energy that really helped you. And then every single day, whenever I think about that, it's like an instant enthusiasm for life. It's like an instant jolt of energy and, gratitude, because God, to me, I can see God in Keith. I can see God in my family. I can see God now in strangers. And now for me, it's just about mastering, being kind and mastering non-judgment and mastering this more miracle mindset and this God consciousness, where it's like, you see the innocence. And when I coach people, I only see that. And I look at all different things, and I think about, if I can just show up for one reason, I want it to be the reason that I'm here today, and that's God. So it's very spiritual, but it's who I am.
So when you're doing your coaching now and your videos, because I watched a little bit, and what was it about decluttering people's lives and stuff like
Yep.
that? But
Yep.
you're not always making it spiritual. You're talking. It does it always go back to, because you said a few things and it about how people, I don't even recall, but I know it was good stuff. But it's not. Is it always you bring God into your every time you coach, or not really?
No.
No.
I mean, to be honest, people can't handle the word God. Like, I just, I
I hear
coach
you. It
people
probably definitely,
specifically
yeah.
around that. Yeah, they
Right.
get very turned off.
Right.
I was very turned off. I was like, this is a Bible hugger. This is, I'm like, don't know what's going on. And, I lacked a lot of awareness. Something I'm so fascinated by is divinity. And, for me, I don't talk about it a lot in corporate coaching. Oh my gosh, you bring up the word God, it's like people are out. They're like, nah, I don't know where I'm at. So no, for the way it might look in corporate terms, is like looking at emotional intelligence. When I think about God, God is just my fuel. God is like me, love, changing the word God and shifting back to love. What's my why? It's self-love. It's knowing that what I do is not for me anymore. If I made it about me, I try again to kill myself, So it's like, you got to make it about a purpose bigger than yourself, and then do the mental training. I'm a mindset coach. So I get into people's mindsets and I look at that and I say, look at all the ways you're coming from fear, because I've been there. I know what that's like. There's only two places you can be. You're either in heaven or hell. And a lot of us suffer because it's all coming from our mind, just chilling in this fear. And so you can talk about that and not bring up anything in terms of spirituality, right? Like, you can even talk about the ego, bunch of different ways to overcome the impact of the ego. Some people might be turned off by that. So you might say, all right, how do you deal with anger? How do you deal with emotional management? You can take it in a couple different ways.
So what I wanted to ask you is, so the people you're coaching now, is it people who are going through stuff like the way you were, or it could be someone that's trying to be successful in business? Like, what is your clientele now specifically?
Yeah, it's very diverse. So when I first started life coaching, it was like people just like me. It was women just like me. And then I started to see a change. Like, for me, I started to get a lot more spiritual, because at the time, I was meditating all day, every day. I did a network marketing business that helped me create an income stream that let me work from home, and it still lets me do what I want. But at the time, I was like, I need to work on myself. So because I feel like I was just doing so much of that personal development, I attracted clients that were also looking to level up again on their mindset, Then it got even deeper, Vin, because I started doing a lot of content, speaking about a lot of content around suicide and suicide prevention and suicide awareness. And then I all of a sudden started attracting people who were dealing with intrusive thoughts. So right now, where you've caught me is actually more on the corporate side. So I went back into, I joined a technology company to be like their performance coach, if you will, and do like their executive coaching and all their hiring and their staffing and develop their culture. And that is, I mean, this is like 23-year-olds to 35-year-olds where now I'm coaching on performance. Now it's like sales training, how to be a consultant, how to ask questions, how to be, consultative, things like that. So my entire client, stream is very diverse. It's very different. And I love it that way. I love to just, be of help in any which way that I can for that specific person.
So yeah, it's just morphing into what it is. It started out with one thing, and now you're just a full array of help for everyone. I love it. I love it. But you're kind of in sales, right? You started out in sales. You did the pharmaceutical, you did the AGP. So that's kind of, you knew you were a saleswoman. You knew you wanted to sell. Was that part of it?
No, I mean, I didn't even know sales. Like when I went to school, I studied community health. I went to Hofstra for health, like I became a personal trainer and stuff. But I met a girl, Vinny, who was actually in real estate. And I was like, oh my gosh, out in Long Beach, I had moved in with her off Craigslist and she was interviewing on the phone. And I'm like, whew, you sound so good. Like, I'd just gotten out of college. I graduated early. I was a receptionist making like $30,000 a year. I'm like, whatever you're doing, I want to do. And she's the one who was like, Sheri, you got to go to ADP. You don't know how to close. I was like, I don't even know what closing looks like. So she's like, you got to go get trained. So I went to ADP. And then she's literally like, I'm going to help you get a pharma job. So she's the one who helped get me into sales. And then for me, Vin, it was more about developing sales as a skill. I realized I was like, I don't really like sales, but I love sales as a skill. And so that's why I transitioned. Once I had left medical sales back in 2015, I began my network marketing business, which is network marketing. It's direct sales. It's now I'm literally selling direct from Isogenics to the consumer, but I'm the advertisement. So that was an interesting mix of selling. And then now I do recruitment. And like recruitment, if you can imagine, you've done it, you're recruiting agents and you're recruiting people,
right.
You're qualifying people, you're asking questions, you're getting to know them. And then you're literally making a match. You're deciphering, okay, is this a benefit for them? Is this going to work out for them? So it's all sales. It's all the skill.
I love sales. And I tell people all the time, I love my job in general. And to get paid for doing it is like the icing on the cake. I love, like, people get a house and I just sold someone's house and he was like, you set me up for the rest of my life. And he hugged me. Like, that's a great moment. You know what I mean? And to get paid to do that is a great feeling.
Oh my gosh. And I can only imagine, like in real estate, such a monumental time in people's life is getting a house.
Right. And I always say that people are one of the biggest things in your life, and you're trusting me with that. That's a valuable thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, sales is all about providing value. I mean, I think sales, everybody should have to go through sales training. I mean, it's beautiful because it just helps you have conversations. And what are we doing as human beings? We're constantly having conversations. Why not just get good at that so you feel confident and, you can become just really good at getting to know someone. You become genuinely interested and you don't get weird. People get really weird and they're like, I don't know what to say. It's like, that, just be yourself. That sales coaching is always fun.
The last thing you need to talk about is the price. Once you bring up the price, there's nothing else to talk about. I tell people that all the time. I'll go on list. Yeah. You know what a listing appointment is? When you go to get to a house, and it's like the bread and butter. I come to your house and you tell me you want to put it on the market, and I take people sometimes with me, like, to try to coach them, like you're doing, and they immediately want to talk about the price, and I'm like, the moment we get to that, there's nothing else to talk about. Let's just talk and see what their sales is about. Like you said, the people's needs and getting to know them and talk to them. We could talk about the price. Once we bring that up, there's nothing else to talk about, right?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously got to ask questions. I love to sell me this pen.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. I was interviewing 3 people today at work, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I was coaching this guy before he was interviewed. I'm like, I should create like LinkedIn videos on how to interview because some people just don't know.
That would be great. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was just literally, I was
Yeah.
like, I should do this.
Right.
And, you might see it, Vinny, in a couple of weeks. All of a sudden
It
have
sounds
like,
good.
a series.
So, to people listening now that are not confident or kind of feeling not that good about themselves, is there something you can kind of say, like to kind of, because I know that's what you do, is that what would you say to that? What is there some kind of advice, or you can't really do that?
Yeah. No, of course. Of course. I
That's
mean,
what you do, right?
I do it, yeah, all the time. It's really like you have to become your biggest cheerleader in the sense of just taking it one day at a time and not feeling like you have to get overwhelmed, because present moment awareness is key. When we're in the present moment and we're thinking about the future, it's going to look like worry. Worry is like mental abuse. It's like when your mind is just constantly in a different place that you have no control over. And so when you get that awareness, you bring yourself back and you say, okay, I'm not going to do that. But then you look on the flip side, and then people go into the past and they feel guilt, or they feel shame, or they feel like they're lacking something because maybe they thought they were better then, or maybe they're looking at somebody else and they're wishing they had something. Look at that and see how your mind again is not in the present moment. If you can bring yourself back to the present moment and take it one day at a time and start to look into things like meditation. I mean, when we look at confidence, it's all about building the belief in yourself. And when you look at being a no limits person, you've got to develop that mindset. That's going to take work, right? Like the mind's a muscle. So get to work, do the personal development, do the meditation, understand how you're building this emotional, this mental, even the psychological musculature for yourself, for nobody else, but for yourself, so that when you approach people, that when you approach situations, you don't look at it from a sense of fear, but you look at it from a sense of excitement and opportunity and a place where you can contribute. And that, I think, is that's the confidence I want to give your people today.
Okay. And what about people that are doing well? Like you, in your bio, we talk about leveling up people's health and their wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So someone that's doing good already and they just want to take it to that next level. Can you help people with that too?
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to come down to how we're playing small. I mean, all of us are playing small. There's not one person I know that's really, really, really playing big.
And when you say that, as far as taking risks, or what?
Well, really asking yourself, am I giving it everything? Am I doing my best? Where in the areas when we look at performance, we can do 10 times more. If we look at being a kind human being, we can do 10 times more. It's really looking at when you level up, come back to the mindset. What are you doing on a daily basis to set yourself up for success? What are you doing in terms of habits? What do your habits look like? If you're being successful right now, then keep doing what you're doing. If you're happy and you're grooving, then freaking keep going, and even spread that and share that and tell people, talk about how you got to that place, just like we're doing here, because there's other people that are on that journey, and there's all of us, and it's human nature to get knocked down. So you can always do that mindset development. It's like an emotional shower, just like we have a physical shower and we go and shower every morning. Even if you are the most successful person, give yourself that extra 5-minute shower. If you're not doing it yet, I challenge and say, like, you know what, let's make sure we're doing that, because from there, success is everything.
I obviously, I'm a big believer in you need to keep positive people around you, and you're going to be the people who are around you, right? If you keep if there's 100 agents in the office and 20% are doing the business, and you're hanging out, right? Success leaves clues. You want to stay around people who are doing good. You kind of follow that coach, right? The podcast, he's probably really good, and now you probably follow coaches that are doing well, correct? You're not going to follow coaches that are not doing well. So I'm a big believer in keeping positive people around you that are going to raise your game up, right? There's people who drain your energy, and there's people who are going to help you step your game up. Do you believe in that as well?
Oh, 100%. Like, you want to follow people that you can emulate. You want to follow people who you can model yourself after. For me, that was Tony Robbins. It was Marianne Williamson. It was Dr. Wayne Dyer. It was easy for me. I saw these giants and I was like, I want what they have. I saw Marianne Williamson, and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is incredible. I was like, this woman can speak. I mean, she's so articulate, you know. And then I look at Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's so spiritual. He was so, I mean, just like talk about like a divine human being walking around enlightened. I was like, oh my God, this is like a human being just like me. Like I can be like this guy. Like it's not, I'm not crazy.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You know? And then for Tony Robbins, I was like, oh, this is a guy who just, you know, from his background to what he's done to his way of teaching people and moving people. When I was going through some of my difficult times, like I listened to Tony. I would be like, all right, Tony, talk to me. And I'd put on like a 30-minute, you know, Tony video because I knew what I needed to do was shift my mindset. And I clicked with what he was saying.
Did you hear the story he tells about the little kid when he's down to like $27 before he's rich? And I was talking about, and the kid walks in with the suit on, and he opens the door for the woman, and he lets her sit at the table. And the kid caught his eye so much, he went over to him and he was like, "Kid, I saw what you did for that woman. That's amazing." And the kid's like, "That's my mom." And he goes, "You're gonna take her on a date tonight." And he gave him his last $17 that he had in his pocket. And then when he went home, he had like a windfall. Someone who owed him money ended up giving him the money, and he was like, "You give even when you don't have, and it comes back." And I kind of learned that too in real estate. A lot of times I'll go out of my way to help people just starting. Mm-hmm. And when I was younger, I always thought I had to be immediate gratification. It comes back. It just comes back in different ways when you give. You know what I mean?
100%, 100%. And like even sales for us, Vin, it's all about giving. I think about you.
That's it.
You set people up with a house. You're giving yourself. You're there of service. You're there. You're showing up because you have a divine mission to be there. Like it's not a coincidence that you're great at what you do. You know, you show up. You listen to this intuition that says, "Man, then you're good at this. People love you for this." Like you have a purpose there. And I think that when you can really tap into that and be around other people who are also tapping into that purpose, there's a lot of magic to be made. It's just fun, you know?
I could agree. But I think a lot of people have that problem, unlike me and you, where we found the thing that we're our purpose. When you don't have it, you start to get nervous. And as you're getting older, you think you're running out of time, but that's not the case. You know, it can come. Like people don't understand that. You could start your business at 50 and be set for life. Like life is different now, you know?
Yeah, 100%. 100. It's so fascinating. I mean, you look at people freaking out. It's because all the world is practically dominated by a thought system of fear. And so people are constantly thinking of what they're lacking. They think they're lacking a family. They think they're lacking children. They think they're lacking finances or lacking, you know, looks or monetary wealth. It's a constant sense of this mindset built on lack. And so I feel like that now people are starting to wake up to it. And now there's like this revolution changing where people are realizing they don't have to suffer. They're realizing that, you know, we are creators and life is a choice. You know, I was sitting across from a man today who was telling me a story about how he was 3 weeks away from joining the USA team for lacrosse, this kid from Long Island, and he tore his ACL. And I was like, that's why he was sitting in front of me in the corporate world, you know, trying to look for a role in technology. And it's fascinating why you're here, but there's a reason why you're here. And I think people, Vinny, like you said, they can get really down on themselves. They think, you know, I don't have a purpose or I don't know what I'm doing or I'm lost. And I coach a lot of women around the ages of like 40 to 50 who really deal with this. I mean, a lot of women who have gone through divorce and they have a lot of just questions and they're questioning things. And I'm like, this is where you literally, when I talk about the Christ consciousness of just surrendering, you have to choose to see situations differently, right? Like take the spirituality out of it and talk about life being a choice. You have to choose to see the situation differently. You're choosing to see it as a victim. See that. Look at why are you doing that, my dear? You know, and it's
right.
It's all mindset. It's all mindset.
I think, and a lot of times for myself too, as a salesperson, so the goal is obviously always to do more and get better. But I think you also need to be content with what you have at the moment, and a lot of people are not. Like you want what you don't have, right? I'm of the mindset this is great. Of course, I want to do better for my legacy and my family, but I'm totally content. A lot of salespeople can't do that. You're not content until you're doing more. When does it end? You know what I mean? That can go on forever. So
Mm.
me, I love where I'm at, and every once in a while I'll say this is amazing that I've been able to do this, but I still want to do better. But I'm not like, if I don't do better, it's a disaster. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's this. I think he's a psychologist. Even I studied him a couple years ago, Abraham Maslow, who talks about motivation and growth motivation, Vinny, what you're describing, the sense of motivation where it's like, oh, you know you're doing good, but you know you can do better, right? That's when I challenge my folks in performance coaching. I say, listen, your numbers are great. You're a high performer, but like you come to me and like it's 6 o'clock and you're leaving. Like you can do more. Let's
Right.
look at how you can add more efficiency to what you're
Right.
doing. There's
Work
always
smarter.
more that,
Work smarter,
yeah.
not harder. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's this sense of growth motivation is how can I be better? This sense of self-improvement. Then there's this other flip side, that's deficiency motivation, where it's what you're describing of it's like, oh shit, I'm missing something. Now I've got to do it. Now I'm motivated because I feel like I'm lacking something. It's totally different from a sense of growth. It's totally a different driver.
Right.
And you look at half the world comes from that place because deficiency motivation is fear. It's the sense that what I have right now is not enough. So I've got to go out and find something freaking better. I've got to grasp. I've got to constantly fight my way. I've got to grit my teeth. Like all of these words come out. I'm like, nah, actually it's about flow. It's not about grit. It's about, learning resiliency. It doesn't mean you have to like kill yourself doing work. Like, no, I don't think that's what our purpose to do here is. But I think looking deeper within yourself and seeing how can I be motivated more? Why am I holding myself back? Where am I holding myself back? That's when we tap into growth motivation. That's when you've seen it. That's when you can start to influence somebody in the sales space is when you understand what's holding you back. Why are you here? What's motivating you? And how can we
Definitely.
get you
Yeah.
to a different place? Like it all comes down to this mindset and this belief we have about ourselves. Can we do it or can we not? I think that's why I adopt so much of I try and put myself in how would God view me? Because I know if I viewed me, I'd probably see myself as some limits. I'm not as good at this. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at remembering names. But when I shift to God in that second, it's just a mindset shift. I'm like, no, wait a minute. I can do this. It's not just me here. Like I don't have to know all the words. And in the moment I ask God, put words in my mouth. If I do a presentation, God, this is your presentation. Just put words in my mouth. Let me show up. I don't need to be nervous. What am I nervous about?
Yeah.
But I don't need to share that with people.
Right. But for me, I think important part of sales is self-awareness as well. A lot of people can't admit what they're not good at. If you can have this thing where I'll try to critique people that are on my team in a good way. You need to work on whether it's lead generation or whatever, and they just go talk about what they do well. But I know what things I'm not good at, and I think being self-aware is also because then I can hire someone to help me in what I'm not good at. If I can't admit what I'm not good at, how am I going to improve on it?
Oh, exactly. Like a value, that self-development, self-awareness, it's so crucial. I mean, and that's life, having that awareness, understanding how you show up impacts other people and what that's like. Like what now, especially like I'm in an environment with people who are younger and I love it, Vinny. Like it's wild to me because there's a lot of folks who lack a lot of self-awareness and I just laugh and I'm like, oh man, like I remember when I was 23 years old, like I was going through depression. I had zero self-awareness. I like thought I was, the worst thing in the world at the time, but I had at least some type of intelligence, right? Like when I coach and I teach on emotional intelligence, there's also the other types of intelligence. Emotional intelligence is understanding those emotions and being self-aware. That I think a lot of people lack some of that emotional intelligence and they don't even want to look at what they're doing. There's still a lot of pain there. Again, it comes back to that anxiety. They're going to avoid it because it's painful. A lot of people avoid the present moment because it's painful for them. So their mind will constantly go to the future or go to the past because it's more comfortable for them to live there. You know what I mean?
Of course. But also, I feel people are just not willing to put in what it takes to you want all these things. You could talk about a vision board and you could put all these things on the board, but then there's going to be a time where you got to put in the work to get that stuff. And a lot of people are just not willing to do it. Like you could coach till you're blue in the face, but
Oh,
if
yeah.
right? But if somebody's got to be willing to do the work at the end of the day, right?
It's that word. It's the willingness. You've got to be willing to do it because it's not for you. It's not for me. That's when we coach and we help people. It's not for us. Like when I show up for people, I'm not doing it for me.
Right.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it for you. Like I get a lot of joy out of what I do, but if that person doesn't want to accept it, or if that person doesn't want to look at what they're doing, I practice the 4 agreements. I'm like, all right, I'm not taking this personally. I'm not going to make any assumptions that, I know what you're going through, or I don't know what you're going through. I'm just going to keep doing my best, and I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be impeccable with my word, and I'm just going to carry on with my way. And, that I practice that really fast because people are like that. Maybe half the people around us are trying to figure
100%.
out how to be
Right.
motivated.
You could read a million self-help books, and I believe in that, and I'm not putting it down. You could watch Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, everybody. There's going to be a time where you got to execute. You got to put the book down and actually put some, right? Anything. You
100%.
read books on working out and going to the gym. You could perform, but you got to go do it. And you could go do it wrong and just go do it. People want it. I call that preparing to prepare. Like, just go do it. That's enough now. You read enough books. Now let's do something that's going to execute the plan. The plan is great. The vision's great, but are you going to do the work to execute the plan, right?
Oh my God, 100%. Like everything we even talked about today for like the past hour. Like it's great discussion, but it's all for application. It's all for application.
Right.
Right. Hearing and learning and reading even the 4 Agreements was a great book. I read it and I was like, oh, this is a great book. But then I went and I applied it in my life and I saw miracles happen. And it's like, I say that for everyone. If you show up, if you do the work, don't make it about you. The moment you make it about you, your limits show up, your circumstance, all the kind of so much bigger than you can handle. But don't make it about you. Find that purpose that's going to be greater than you, and then show up. And then show up because, even if you have to find accountability partners, you're going to quit on yourself before you even quit on them. So learn what's going to work for you. I always tell people, it's not laziness. It's just, you lack the awareness of how much better life can be for yourself. And until you have that awareness for yourself, I can't do the work for you. We can't chew the food for them, nor do the mental exercises. We can only love them and show up and be loving of them.
That's it. We can lead that's today's message. We can lead the horse to water, but we can't make them drink. So anybody listening, hopefully you're going to execute. We understand you listen and you read the books, but we want you to put it into action. Right, Sheri? You there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. So we want you to put it into action, correct? That's kind of our message we're going to end with. You can listen, you can read all the books, but we need you to actually go out and do it, right?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Miracles are there for us. The success we're looking for, it's all right here, right now. We just have to show up.
So listen, I end my show. I didn't tell you this at the beginning, but I'm going to ask you a question. 3 questions. This is how we end the show. I like basketball and I like rap music. I was big. So I'm going to ask you your favorite basketball player, your favorite rapper, and your favorite rap album. That's the way we're going to end. If you're stuck and you tell me you don't like rap at all, we could use your music. Or if you don't like basketball, you're good. All right. Because some people get all nervous. They get weird. So who's your favorite NBA player?
NBA player.
It could be it could be back in the day. Yeah, Kobe. I love it.
I like Kobe.
All right, perfect.
Kobe is like even LeBron James is phenomenal.
Okay, stay with Kobe. I was happy with the first answer.
Kobe.
All right,
and then rapper. Ooh, I love Tupac. I think Tupac is. I'm a rap guy. I grew up in the '80s. My brothers.
Of course.
My brothers were all up in there.
I love it.
What was the last one?
Like either a song by one of your favorite rap songs or a full album that you enjoyed. It could be a Tupac song. Obviously, you like Tupac. It could be his album. Yeah. So is it one of his songs that you liked, or it could...
California Love?
Okay. Yes, nice. Dr. Dre and Tupac. Very good. Yeah. I like Biggie. I know everything with the Biggie Tupac. I'm more East Coast. But I like Tupac too.
Yeah, no, I love them all. I mean, I was watching even a documentary. I love rap music. A lot of my brothers are into it, and I'm just. The Mace, back in the day when Mace was really big. It's just so funny. And Biggie. And even Puff Daddy back in the day.
Right. So, Sheri, I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job for people. And you're definitely great at what you do. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Vinny. This was great. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. So thank
Yeah,
you.
let's stay in touch. And if we ever, whenever you want to be on, sometimes we just do like a topic and you could call in and discuss it anytime. I'd love to have you.
I love it. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Okay.
Bye bye.